when I interpret the Bible metaphysically, the first thing I do is take it out of the context of space and time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so it's it's right here, right now. So what have you been working on?
Good question. I took Sunday off and I was studying Bible verses, so that was kind of fun. Not reading it literally, but reading it as if I'm reading about myself, like that was my perspective. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was kind of interesting. I mean, just imagine the first day of, the first chapter in Genesis. It was like, what is going on internally? I mean, you probably know, but it's like the first day where you just, there's just the darkness, and I don't know what is
Chaos.
it. There's the face upon the water, so it's almost like some observing face just standing there. I looked to some of the Hebrew words to try to find new meanings because I really like studied it, and so what I got as an image is there's this hovering awareness, like
Yeah.
hover, almost like some mother bird fanning eggs, kind of thing, is the image I got from looking up those words.
Right, right.
But not really doing anything, just hovering and waiting and, watching and stirring up the water just a little bit.
I would think that just tuning into the Aramaic part would kind of change the direction of your internal antenna, as far as
Yeah.
getting into the mind of Jesus and the mind
Yeah.
of the people of the time.
Yeah. Well, I was actually thinking I was going to start with the New Testament, but when I read, the curriculum, it says to read just that first part of Genesis first. So that's
Yeah.
where I started.
Yeah, good, good.
But that's so interesting because and so all I did was read those first 5 verses, which is the first day where, the water, and then there's the face upon the water, which now I see as this hovering presence. Like it's kind of like active receptivity. It's not quite just passive waiting. It's like
Right.
hovering and like warming the eggs or something. But it's still, I think I saw those waters as almost like chaos, like it contains everything, all
Yeah.
the bad things, all the good things, anything that could possibly happen or did happen. It's like
Right.
everything's in there and there's this presence hovering it over it, you know,
Yeah.
waiting, and then after all that, it's like, and then God spoke. And so it's like, oh, now you have the word. It's almost like the way I'm seeing it now, it's that inner voice where we hear something. It's like I could even imagine, I was imagining in parts of my life, like say you have some chaotic thing going on in your life and you're just kind of waiting to understand how to resolve it, maybe,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
listening within. And I'm not saying that's what the verse was about, but this is what came to mind when I was reading it.
Yeah, very cool.
But if you imagine that, and then suddenly that's like the word that you'll hear, you know, because you have that happen, right? Where suddenly something occurs to you and you just hear it. So that's
Yeah,
how I was
exactly.
imagining that first, I think it's like the first 5 verses is the first day, and then you hear, and then God spoke, and He's like, "Let there be light."
Right.
So it's like not only does the voice speak, but then we name something, right? Which
Yeah,
is interesting, right?
exactly. As you're describing it makes me think of what it's like to go into meditation.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah, see, that's how it is. It's almost as if the first day is talking about an awakening where maybe before you were lost in that waters of chaos, You know how life is.
right, right.
Sometimes you're not paying attention, you don't really even know that you're in it. You're just living a confused life because most people do
Yeah,
kind of get
exactly.
stuck there. And then suddenly it's like you're observing it instead of in it.
Right.
And then something occurs to you. It's almost like I could get out of this. And then you could name your situation even because once you can put it in words what you're experiencing,
Right. The elephant in the room stays invisible until you name it.
now suddenly there's light and you go, oh, an elephant.
Yeah. Well, this is so much like Carl Jung saying, making the unconscious conscious.
Yeah.
And when if I just look at how I think and how my awareness works, I have this circle light that, my eyes pick up. I see the world, I hear the world, my sensory perceptual field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the border of that, everything behind that is black
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much out of my
Yeah.
perceptual range.
Mm-hmm.
But although it's black, it can be tumultuous.
Yeah.
There are things moving back there that I'm not fully
Mm-hmm.
conscious of.
Mm-hmm.
So, and those things, and this is very much like shadow work, where those things can run me by coming in and coloring what I see and giving it meaning based on these unseen forces. So that's like the waters, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like going out on a lake or out on the ocean. You can see the surface of the water, but you can't see below the surface of the water. But that's where all the life is.
Yeah.
And big things and little things, safe things, dangerous things,
Yeah.
all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things are moving in there, right? And
Yeah.
so what the story of Genesis tells me is that the first step is let there be light.
Yeah.
In
Uh-huh.
other words, look.
You better look.
Yeah,
And at first you can't even see. Like I understand like that process of meditation where you just gotta sit there and wait and
right.
hover, wait until you can see.
Yeah, but this is more of an active prescription.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
this.
because I was imagining this hovering, it's almost has a meaning of vibrating. That's why I was imagining like a bird wings kind of making the water ripple
Yeah,
a little bit,
right.
trying to stir something up, you know.
Yeah, or
But you don't want
even
to just grab
diving in.
anything out of like, oh, I don't think it's about diving in. I think that that'd be pretty scary. Like you never know what you might catch. You might catch something dangerous, or I think you're hovering trying to, so you can pick one thing. Cause I think the very last line, and then it's like, and then God divided the water, made day and night.
Yeah,
And so now something comes out. It's almost like you choose one thing, you saw it, and so you're like, this thing is good. This is what I'm going to take out of there. The rest of it, let's just let it be in darkness.
yeah.
I don't think you want to dive too deep. I think that's the thing about hovering over the face of the waters.
I see. Yeah.
This is just what I came to mind. I'm not saying I'm right or anything.
No, no. Well, that's your insight. So that's noteworthy for sure.
And it's just interesting that after that, like the day and the night, I was just looking down if I wrote any notes because it's almost like the day is when you get to see something clearly, and the night is all those unknowns or even hidden processes, internal things that
Right.
you can't see, but they're still going on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what strikes me about that set of verses is the action that God takes through speaking. Let
Yeah.
there be light. There's a command. There he's he's speaking something into being, and
Mm-hmm.
that's an active voice.
It is. Yeah.
So when I interpret the Bible metaphysically, the first thing I do is take it out of the context of space and time.
You're right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it's it's right here, right now. And so that's when I start to become aware of the waters.
So that's some of the very first sentences, right?
Yeah, the feeling of it is this, it's dark, it's powerful, and it is loaded with potential, and it's
Yeah.
all beneath the surface and hidden.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But it's got all potential. Mm-hmm.
So speaking the word is calling forth something,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's that call and response function.
Yeah, yeah. It says, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And see, when I looked up the word that's like without form, it does mean like chaos, confusion, unshaped potential. It definitely includes potential.
Yeah,
Like that's what that means without form. It's like all potential.
right. What little bit I know of physics, in quantum physics, they talk about that level at the very deepest level. It's exactly that. It's unformed potential.
Mm-hmm.
And that putting our
Yeah.
attention there, speaking into that,
Yeah.
which is, you know, speech is a way to measure, and they say that things come into being when we measure them. So that word, that's a really interesting
Yeah.
word if we apply
Hmm.
it um, to the Genesis story. And
Yeah.
it brings to mind too that picture by it's a painting of God kneeling down on one knee with a huge compass,
Right.
prescribing uh, the universe.
I can't quite see it in detail, but I know what you
Yeah,
mean. I wish I could
William
see it
Blake.
completely.
William
Oh,
Blake.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so he's got this compass and he's circumscribing the universe,
Yeah.
which is
Mm-hmm.
what God is doing in that first
Yeah.
chapter of Genesis, and that's measuring. So the
Measuring.
word
Yeah.
measure is really important and something that Blake probably saw.
Yeah.
And it reminds me too of the justice key because the scales are also a measuring device.
Yeah.
So so there's this act of calling forth out of pure potential a manifest reality, a
Yeah.
creation, a
Yeah.
creation.
And I agree. The thing that I found though from reading it is that was what stood out to me in the past, but now that I reread it, I found the verse before it where it was like there was a long period of waiting, where you're just hovering,
Yeah,
waiting, which I miss that part that you don't just speak and, everything comes into creation. It's like you have to sit there and go,
yeah.
what
Don't
do
come
I
in like a
see?
bull.
Let's
Yeah,
stir up the water a little bit, see what comes to the surface first, and maybe we don't want to go too deep in there and let's just look and watch.
yeah, yeah. Don't charge in like a bull in a china closet.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, and it was so interesting to see that. And oh, yeah, it just, yeah, I don't have it. I mean, that was interesting to focus on the waiting, like, and then it was an active waiting almost, like you didn't just sit there.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're participating and stirring something up first.
Yes. You know what that makes me think of is building a potential.
Yeah, it's almost like building up potential. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so applying it again in meditation, the first thing to do is just take your attention away from the field of perception and put it on the dark waters, the face of the waters
Exactly.
within you, and then hovering,
Hovering. Yeah, and I
which,
found where I wrote down the definition because it's moved. Moved is the word that we're talking about, where the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water. So it's like moved means to hover, to vibrate, to flutter like a bird over a nest.
yeah. And of course, spirit is ruach in
Yeah.
breath,
Hmm.
prana,
So it's almost
Holy
like
Spirit.
then
Yeah.
that's the water. It's like it's the breath moving.
Yeah.
There.
Some
Yeah.
something that vibrates, you
Yeah.
know. So
Hmm.
moved upon the face of the waters. And that also agitates the waters, like you said,
Yeah.
stir something up, that fluttering.
But it's also an activity where this sounds like it's peaceful waiting, but it's not. It's really, like,
Right?
yeah.
Loaded with intention. It is hovering means you're holding your position, but you're
Hmm.
focused on it,
Uh,
right?
and I decided I thought focused at first, but once I thought about it, there's no focus yet because there's no light. You can't really see anything. So this is
Yeah.
before focus. You're just kind of, who knows, just paying attention, but not quite
God,
focused.
it's like
Like,
presence becoming aware of presence.
exactly. So there's
Pre
no awareness almost. No, it's an awareness, but not a focus.
yeah, like an undifferentiated Well, like
Yeah.
presence, a presence
Yeah.
comes into the room, it's not localized, it fills the whole
Hmm.
room.
Yeah.
So again, in meditation, that's like becoming aware of your own presence
Hmm.
and and as we become aware of our own presence, then we draw to us a greater presence.
Yeah. And that's kind of what this is. Then there's a greater awareness that, you know, because you could almost take that next verse and split it up into two. Like the first is, and God said,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's before you say what he said, it's like he said something. It's like he spoke. There was,
yeah.
you know,
It's almost like there's a feeling there, and then instead of saying, let there be light, it's like, show me, you know,
yeah.
show me. I feel your presence, show me. I need to see your face, the face of the
But
waters.
see, and then the light came, and then that's where you can focus. Now it's like, now I see something.
Right, right. Now, in the Holy Order of Man's, in our initiatory process, we do the illumination first and then self-realization.
Yeah.
And once a person, and coming into illumination is like, like that poem by Dylan Thomas, uh, the, the force that through the green fuse drives the
Right.
flower, drives my green age.
Yeah.
So coming into illumination is like that realization that number one, you're alive,
Hmm.
because, and that, as crazy as it sounds, that's not really evident to most people. Most people
No.
don't even believe they're real.
Right.
But once you get that jolt of life energy and it becomes visibly apparent as light, then not only do you know you're real, but you know you're alive. And then
Yeah.
once you have that, then you work towards realizing that the life you're experiencing is the one life. There's really
Hmm.
no differentiation except the vehicle you're in, the way
Hmm.
it acts like a lens or a vessel to carry that light. So what we then tell the student is to, okay, you see the light, you feel this life energy flowing through you. Now find the source of the light.
Hmm.
Go
Yeah.
upstream. Where is it coming from? And if a person does that with enough intention and focus and concentration, they'll see the self.
Hmm.
And then as they're on the crux of that, then the teacher comes in and energizes that, gives it another boost so that it then pierces through the veil of materiality, that because the God energy coming into the world is not worldly energy at its source. It's something else. It's divine energy. And in order to see that, you have to leave the material mindedness and you have to ride on the wave of the life energy manifesting as light. Then it's revealed to you the true nature of that presence, that aliveness. And I know a lot of people don't like this word or the idea, but this enormous personhood
Hmm.
where God is no longer an abstract principle or a impersonal force, where God becomes intensely personal, way
Hmm.
way beyond even our understanding of what a person is. So I see all of that kind of blueprinted in that first part of Genesis.
Yeah. And I think so. It's almost like this is your first, it's almost like the illumination. It's like this is your first awareness that you are light, your
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
Like you said, like just in that first day of Genesis.
yes, yes. So in the initiation of illumination, it's like the teacher puts his hands, around, that solar plexus area and says to it, "Let there be light."
Hmm.
There's the word.
Yeah.
There's that,
And you actually, that is something you say.
yeah, yeah, in so many words, yeah.
Mm.
And so all the preparation for that moment is the hovering
Hmm.
and the building up of that potential.
Yeah. Hmm.
So there's the electrical part,
Hmm.
the physics part. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It shows just how real the initiations are. That these are not mental constructs. They're not like an aha moment. Not at all.
No, not like that.
These
Mm-mm.
these are a direct experience of the movement of power within you. Yeah. And it makes sense, that I mean the whole point of the spiritual path, of which the Bible is the handbook,
Hmm.
not a history book, it's a handbook for
Yeah,
the spiritual path.
exactly.
And the spiritual path is the path of initiation.
Hmm.
The sequential intelligent movement into higher states of consciousness.
Hmm. And I'm assuming that's what these 7 days are about. And then,
Yeah,
after this, then you go and read the New Testament. It's more or less in more details about the same thing, but
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and Jesus said, I didn't come to abolish the law, I came to fulfill it.
hmm.
And so all of those stages are going to be amplified in his teachings. But that would be an interesting study to see how those 7 days of creation map onto
Yeah,
esoteric anatomy.
that's what I'm curious about. But like I said, I only read the first day because I got so lost in looking up all the main words.
Right, right.
Because it added so much meaning and visual. Like now I can see it.
Yeah,
It's not just water and light,
right.
and day was separated from night. It's like, no, no, it's more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love etymology. I love looking at the roots of
Hmm.
words, where they
Yeah.
come from. There's so much, and then to look at the different languages and see the etymology in that language, which you can find online. But
Mhm.
but yeah, yeah, it's so fascinating. But the more you look at it from these different angles, then the more it tends to resolve into one thing,
Hmm.
and that is the path of initiation.
Yeah.
Yeah, raising man or people up out of the material, instinctual,
Hmm.
intellectual, material mindedness into an awareness of higher worlds.
Yeah. And so this first day is like the very first step is like pulling yourself up out of that.
Yeah, yeah. Because we know, I mean, through faith, we know that everything we need is all within us.
Hmm.
We don't have to go anywhere else to get it. Jesus said, don't listen to them if they say, people who tell you have to go somewhere to find the kingdom of heaven, it's
Right.
within you. And so we all carry around with us the face of the waters,
Hmm. Yeah.
upon which the spirit moves. And the spirit, if we're so inclined, then we look at it and we make the attempt to make whatever's there conscious. We go into it. Let there be light. Show me. Let me
But
see.
it's interesting that, after that verse that it is just the one thing, like only one, like because you separate the day from the night.
Yes,
Right? Isn't that
yes.
the words? I was trying to find it, the next one, but so you only have this one thing that's been illuminated. There's still all the stuff that's still in the waters. You
Yeah,
still can't see it.
right, right. Yeah. Yeah, it's the beginning of a journey for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Taoism says the same thing. The one became two, and then the two became three, and then the three becomes the 10,000 things.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but there's the yin yang. There's the day and night in the yin yang.
Yeah. Because I'm assuming that this process is always happening, or at least maybe not every moment, but it's happens over and over again, but maybe with a new awareness.
Right. And there we get into the cyclic nature of the unfolding of awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's these 7 days, and then after you go through the 7 days, I'm assuming you go back to day one, but kind of like with the tarot, that 3x7 layout. After you get to day 7, you go to the next step of day
Yeah.
one.
It's the spiral. You
Mm-hmm.
make the complete cycle, but then you come back around to the same place, only on a
Yeah.
higher level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kind of like first the test and the lesson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We don't really understand what the test was until we pass it.
I know that's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tricky.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. And in training people, I know I've had coaches and teachers, and it's like they say, do this. And they don't want to hear from you why. They just want to say, they want to hear you say, okay, I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do, then once you've done it, then you realize it's like that assumption, comprehension, realization cycle
Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
the teaching manual. The assumption is just doing it,
Yeah,
doing
you
the
just do
exercise.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, just do it. And then once you do it, then you start to comprehend it. You get your mind around it, and then you embody it. You start to embody it more and more, and then you become it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
and that's where you come around the spiral. You come around to a higher level.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, you're in a holding pattern until you get enough energy to take that next step.
Mm-hmm. But this deep water could almost be seen as the test, as like you're down there in the water and you don't really know what the
Right.
test is until you can step out of it and the light shines and you go, oh, now I understand. I see
Yeah.
what I was, but you have to go through that hovering period. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's almost like a stage. You're stuck in it and then you start to be aware, but you're still just hovering and trying to figure it out, but you don't know.
Yeah. And that's where, I mean, the whole story in that first part of Genesis is like a sorting,
Yeah, it's a sorting.
creating, night from day, then the different kinds of animals and
Mhm.
there's a distinctions or categories.
Yeah, categories. It's
It's
a
like,
naming. Yeah.
yeah, and so as we go into meditation, then we have to apply that principle and start categorizing our experiences,
Hmm.
make sense
Well,
of them.
the interesting thing is, I mean, you're talking about categorizing, but I think it's more than that. It's like the verse after where, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. So that's, speaking and the light appearing. But the next verse is about something different. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Well, this is like you see it, and then you have to judge it. You have to,
Yeah.
right? Because you have to decide, is it good? You see it, but is it good? Do you really want to pull this thing out of the waters? you know,
Yeah.
is it good?
Right.
So I saw this judging or whatever you want to call it, and then you take it out and you divide it. You go, yes, this is good. Let's,
Interesting. That's really neat.
yeah,
Yeah, so that judging is like you could almost say, is this appropriate?
yeah. Because when you look up that word "good" in Hebrew, it
Uh-huh.
kind of means aligned and functioning as it should and aligned with reality. It's
Yeah.
not just good as we think of the word as good.
Aligned with reality. I like
So
that.
it's like, is this aligned? It's almost like, say, if I pull this part out of me, am I in alignment?
Yeah. Yeah. That's deep.
So is it good? Or do we want to let this one stay down there in the water? Maybe
Right.
wait a bit for, maybe we should hover some more.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. Let some sleeping dogs lie, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because the word divided, I looked it up and it's like to separate, to distinguish, to set apart. It sounds like part of discernment again there too.
Yeah, yeah. I had a friend once whose mother, right before she died, had this brief moment of lucidity, and it was like an epiphany in just her last moments. She said, "This is this, and that is that, and that's all." And it's like, okay,
Yeah. She saw something, huh?
saw something, right? Yeah. So very interesting how
Hmm.
all of this is mapped in these first chapters of Genesis.
Yeah. It's interesting. There was more there than I expected to find,
Yeah,
but only because I looked up the Hebrew words. If I
exactly.
hadn't, it would have limited what I was imagining. It still would have been good, but
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to break up those things because we've been reciting them for what 3, 4,000 years now, Old Testament, and those
and they,
stories. That's when they were written.
hmm,
Who knows how long they were in circulation before they were actually written down? Because before writing, it was all oral transmission,
mm-hmm,
and they were not. Uh, they did not approach those stories creatively. If you tried to get creative with the stories, they would do terrible things to you. So uh, the highest skill was to repeat the stories verbatim
exactly.
without, our idea of creative writing didn't exist then. They didn't do that kind of thing.
It makes sense though that you want some things that this we want it to keep it this way. It's been refined. But the
Yeah,
thing is when it gets translated into English and we pick these words that have specific meanings where Hebrew language had a little bit more broad meanings.
right.
Whole meanings or bigger meanings, however you want to say it.
Yeah,
Where
bigger.
English is a little more precise. And so when you look up these other meanings, it adds so much.
Yeah, yeah. And a precise language is taken us a long way,
It
but
has, and it has
but
its
it's
place. But yeah.
but it's taken us away from the deeper meaning.
Hmm.
Science is all about precision and precise language, but it really sucks when it comes to meaning. I mean, it doesn't do
Exactly.
meaning. That's not within science's purview.
That's
So,
not it. Mm-mm.
right.
Mm-mm.
So where does it go from there?
And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And if you look up those words, the day and night, this is where day means a period of clarity or activity, not like the day as we know it. It's just, and
Yeah,
then the night is a time of hidden process.
regeneration,
Yeah,
dreaming.
like,
Yeah,
mhm. But it's interesting. So you might have this moment of clarity or activity, and then it doesn't last.
exactly.
Things have to go back into, like, you probably lose some of the clarity and have to repeat this again someday.
Right, right. Well, it says God saw it and saw that it was good. So so again, taking it out of the context of space and time and beyond the intellect too, because the intellect is almost the same as space and time. I mean, the intellect
Yeah,
is like our perception of space and time, and
yeah.
it's like the same thing. So, but a direct experience is not intellectual, and it's not in space and time. It is a
Hmm.
sudden occurrence, and it comes complete and whole with no process. It just happens. There it is.
Hmm.
And those kinds of experiences take time to assimilate,
Hmm.
to sort out, and before they can become part
Yeah.
of us.
And see, that's what kind of what I saw, although you're adding to it, is like this day, the day happened, and now there has to be night when you process it and integrate it before the second day comes along.
Yes, right. Right. And so there's the cycle, the learning cycle, the learning curve,
Hmm.
There, and it's always a sine wave, right? There's
Yeah.
the experience, the assimilation, the experience,
Hmm.
the assimilation. You know, the day, and then the nighttime, your subconscious works it all out
Hmm.
and assimilates it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Is there anything more?
Um, that's the last. Oh, I guess the second part of that verse says, and the evening and the morning were the first day.
Yeah.
And see, evening and morning have different meanings, of course, because it's not day and night. So evening is like a mixture, a blending, a fading of clarity into obscurity, the return to partial unknowing.
Right. Right.
Where morning is to break forth, to seek, to examine, the light that emerges and clarifies again.
The way we wake up remembering a dream
Hmm.
and and seeing the symbolism in the dream.
Exactly.
Yeah. That would be the morning, the dawn, the something that was hidden, the sun below the horizon and the sun above the horizon.
Yeah, and see if you lucid dream, you could be that hovering awareness in a dream
Ah, yeah,
rather than try to do anything, just watch.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then when the moment is right, saying, "Show me."
Yeah, and usually the very last dream that you have is the most meaningful. Like the earlier ones in the night are generally processing dreams that you're
Yes,
processing whatever happened or you thought about, but that very last dream usually contains the most meaning. So it could be like waking up and holding whatever you see. It's like this is when you get to,
yeah,
there's the light.
yeah. Now I'm trying to remember the last dream I had before waking up this morning. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, you have to think about them or write them down or they just disappear.
yeah. Well, there's also that that principle that any task you assign takes as long as the time you allot for it. And so surely the subconscious mind knows when you're about to wake up, so it hurries up and gives you the message.
It does, and I've experienced that.
Yeah. Well, this really shows that there's a science to this, that this is not just vague, uh,
No,
Bronze Age poetry.
no, there's
This has
lots
a,
to see in it.
yeah, yeah. And that's what, the how I see a big part of my work and your work too is that, is to make sense, is to bring these stories into the light and show how they apply and explain the symbolism and the meanings of the words and just how deep all of this goes in the science of soul development, consciousness expansion, making the unconscious conscious, and living a better life, more aware, more awake, because not just enamored by the glamour of the field of perception, but coming to a deeper experience and an understanding of the movement of the forces that are moving through us continually that then inform what we see,
Hmm.
because we don't see anything without attaching meaning to it, and that meaning is that's that's already formed within us until and unless we turn around and look at it and then put it to the test, to through tests, trials, experimentation to understand just what the nature of those forces are and differentiating them and categorizing them, and for the sole purpose of being able to work with them more consciously and effectively.
Right, because I think the goal isn't necessarily to be stuck in this process, but to become creators so that
Oh, yeah,
you not only know, but you do it, you start influencing the future. Like, but
right.
this is just like the first step. You first have to do the inner work.
Yeah. I go to a gym and lift weights, but I don't go to get good at lifting weights.
Right, yeah,
You don't do push-ups so you can be good at doing push-ups.
right. What an accomplishment. I'm great at
Oh
doing
yeah,
push-ups.
yeah.
Yeah.
You need a medal.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like it isn't just to get good at this stuff. There's a bigger goal, but you still have to start here.
Right.
Yeah,
So what's that bigger goal?
I know.
You know,
I think
what
that's
is,
the New Testament.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's, in all the religions, all of them, have this, like the way the Orthodox people call it, if I get it right, the theosis, which
Mhm.
in other religions, they just simply say oneness with God.
Yeah.
Or, you might say just realizing reality,
Hmm.
having a direct perception of reality, which could be quite disturbing if you saw too much too soon.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of even this first verse. Maybe that's why it's, the dark waters. Maybe it's you just really don't want to see everything or can't even handle
Right,
everything. Just one
right.
thing at a time.
Yeah. And God, thinking about when in your life have you been confronted with too much reality,
Exactly. Yeah.
and how disturbing that can be.
Hmm.
And there you have the protection of the mother, the divine feminine,
Hmm.
that keeps us in an egg or in a womb until we're ready to emerge into a greater level of,
Hmm.
of life. Yeah.
And you could see this in your shadow work too, that even this first verse, because that dark waters, that could be, where all your shadows are. I'm not saying that's the interpretation, but certainly could be part of it. And you just bring one thing into the light at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking it step by step, whatever you're capable of
Hmm.
seeing or speaking.
Yeah. Because the hovering could be, just trying to observe what your behavior, trying to figure out what it is. And then
Yeah.
you speak and you go, ah, there it is. And you give it a name, whatever it is that you see within yourself.
Yeah. And then
And
you
then you
say,
bring it out of the water and you like turn it into something good.
yeah, yeah. You say, good. What's next?
It's good. Yeah, this is good. Let's.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, you've been, we've both been looking for a way to describe shadow work in more spiritual language and less shadow language, which is fundamentally psychological. So, still haven't quite nailed it yet.
Well, I had an idea actually that came at the end of this, that it came out of that word of alignment. I think it would be more helpful to talk about alignment than shadow work.
Yeah,
Because shadow work, it's like you're looking down, and that was one of your criticisms of how I was speaking about things when we first started talking. You said that I'm always looking down. And so I think to call it shadow work is you're always looking down instead of standing in the middle and going, there's a down and there's an up, and here I am in the middle trying to be in alignment. Like that might be at least a beginning word to think more of alignment.
because it has that verticality to it,
Hmm.
which implies an up
Hmm.
and a down.
I
And
mean, because you don't want to live in the up either, because that wouldn't work. You got to live in
right,
reality, but you don't have to always be looking for shadows either. You want to look up and you want to look down, but you want to. I
yeah.
think the word is something in the middle.
Have you
Like
ever
I thought
known?
alignment is a good word, but
Yes, I like that. and I think everybody can feel what that means,
Yeah.
can instantly. So alignment, let's work on that. But have you ever known anyone who is so embroiled in their shadow work that it's almost like they're on a downward
Exactly, because that's what I think what you
trajectory?
put focus on. Because I've been in, with a therapist before, and that's the thing. You're always looking at those things,
Yeah,
and it's hard to move forward. You're never going to move forward because you're always focused on the shadow or the negative,
exactly.
and so I think there has to be balance. You have to look at the possibilities too, and look forward. And
Yeah, so what you're saying, you can tell it's true because it feels true, and not
mhm.
that that's the test of truth,
No,
but it
but you can tell that it's
resonates.
the right
Yeah,
direction anyway. It's like it's the right direction.
yeah. So my approach to scripture, whether the Bible, or the Tao Te Ching, or the teachings of Buddha, or whatever, is like if we know, like what you just said is true, if we assume that that's true, then it must show up in the scripture.
Yeah.
I mean, if something is real, it's got to be there. That's my approach to it. I always assume that the whole thing is there in scripture. Otherwise, it wouldn't have persisted through
Right. Yeah.
thousands of years, right? There's
Hmm.
core truth to it. So whatever we discover today in terms of science or psychology or whatever, if we can look at something like this and say this is true, then it's got to be there. And so this idea you said where we we hover over the waters, but we're not. Some things don't need to be drawn up yet. Some things we want to leave in the water, but we want to take those things that we can use or that we can handle, that we can actually withstand without being swamped or pulled down.
Hmm.
So
You have to judge it like that. That God saw the light, that it was good. So first of all, you have to put it in the light, and then you have to say, and then the good meaning in alignment. Is this in alignment?
yeah.
With the world, with what already exists, with your life, or
So you have
reality.
to prove it. You have to prove it. You have
Hmm.
to be able to demonstrate it. If you believe something, you have to be able to live it, right?
Hmm. Yeah, because this implies that sometimes something might not be good, even though the light is on it, and you go, nope, throwing that one back. you
Yeah.
know?
Not ready for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've seen people who have gone insane, and history has its examples of mystics who just went off the deep end
Right.
and went completely bonkers. They
Hmm.
lost themselves. So and we know that that's true. I mean, if you get too introspective, you can lose yourself and lose your bearings and lose your contact with reality.
Hmm.
And there's a precipice. There's like an inner precipice in there where they can actually go over. And if you do, then there's no coming back, at least not in this life.
Yeah. Hmm.
So if we know that that's true, so maybe that is an echo of this original text. It
Hmm.
must be there. Like okay, here's a formula for dealing with what you don't know
Yeah.
and how to know it, how to bring it into consciousness without being overwhelmed.
Exactly. You don't want to go diving down there, but you can be the face on the water.
Yeah, the interface. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the surface, the
Hmm.
surface
Yeah.
of the water, dividing
Hmm.
the above from the below.
Exactly.
So I see in all of this just this incredible deep, deep psychology.
Hmm.
This spiritual how to deal with um, immediate experience that's
Hmm.
non-intellectual, that's not even emotional. It's just the raw experience of an immediate reality. and how to assimilate that and how to make it real and then how to give birth to it in the physical, in this domain where we find ourselves.
Yeah, because I'm assuming the rest of these days, of the Genesis chapter 1 is refining it. Like now that you've got something that you decided was good and it's in the light,
Yeah.
what do you do with it tomorrow? Or the next cycle.
Yeah. It's like it's forming a constellation of domains that
Mm-hmm.
will then coalesce and work together in a dynamic interrelationship,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, that's the universe, right?
Yeah.
That's our experience.